Hey everyone, this is Stove here, and welcome to a preview of the Week 2 NFL schedule. And yeah, we're going to be just going over the whole, I don't know if anyone's got bye weeks yet. I don't think so. But yeah, so we got quite a bit of interesting games going on. Some toss-ups here and there that we can look at and really try to evaluate what can happen, what could happen throughout the whole league. But anyway, first things first, we're going to be talking about the Thursday night game right there. Washington Commanders versus Green Bay Packers. To be fair, obviously I can kind of understand why the Green Bay Packers did do they did great against the Lions. Their defense did a phenomenal job, and I do have to excuse me, good lord. I do have to admit that with the Packers defense doing what they did, Jordan Love being able to put up a couple of touchdowns as well against the Lions defense, which last year they did pretty well, I would say. But with the Packers, I understand why the NFL analysts think that it's going to be a 3.5 point favorite to the Packers. But at the same time, I mean, it's the Washington Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels' total scrimmage yards will probably get like another 300 yards, maybe 350 if he breaks like 250 passing yards with 2 passing touchdowns, and hell, even like 50 plus rushing yards and a rushing touchdown himself. Obviously, Washington Commanders, it looks like they have lead on both receptions, rushing, and passing. So granted, I think Jordan Love did a phenomenal job passing, but I think it will be a back and forth game for sure. Yes, Micah Parsons is on that defense. Yes, it's going to be something that a Thursday night football game that everyone should definitely watch, because it could end up being, we could end up seeing these two play in the playoffs somewhere, whether it be a wild card game or a division round game, or hell, even a NFC conference championship game, because I think these two definitely have the potential to get put into that situation. But again, I think that'll be a close matchup. I am not going to say the winners yet, because I'm going to go through what I want to talk about through this weekend, and then I'll let you know my my winners for this week. And yeah, if you have any questions, just comment down below. Now we got Bengals versus Jaguars. Solid, a better passing game, I think. Travis, oh my goodness. Trevor Lawrence. So many T names that I know. But Trevor Lawrence, he did most likely a better job statistically. The run game looked good. Actually, I think it saved the Jaguars from losing that game last weekend, in my opinion. But yeah, the Bengals also seemed like they were wanting to get the running game going in the first quarter, which they did. Though Chase Brown averaged a little over, if I'm right on this, I'm pretty sure he only averaged like a little over 2 yards per carry. It's not exactly the best, and our offense didn't exactly do much during the second quarter, but luckily our defense showed promise. So I think like that could make it a back and forth game with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow getting 2 touchdowns each, and hell, even getting some I would say probably either Chase Brown or obviously this. I don't know if Eden is or Etten is RB1 or RB2. It was kind of interesting seeing him being able to get that ball, but he played great. I think that's all the Bengals really need to do is just, if they can contain that run game similar to how they were kind of able to with the Browns. They weren't exactly able to stop Joe Flacco, which was unfortunate, but at the same time, Joe Flacco has played so many times against the Bengals, and realistically, whenever I see the Bengals, they haven't necessarily really changed much of their passing or their play calling in a while, which is unfortunate. But anyway, I think the Bengals defense, the way they played, should be a tougher game for the Jaguars, and I think it'll be mostly a back and forth between and whoever really makes the last mistake, I think, will end up losing this game. Anyway, Cowboys versus Giants, pretty sweet deal. Now, unfortunately for the Giants, for whatever reason, they're deciding to still stick with Russell Wilson. That's going to be interesting. Malik Neighbors had an okay time trying to deal with the Washington Commanders last week. I think he almost got injured, or is kind of injured for the most part, trying to lick his chops from the whole dealio of getting hit like so many times. Cowboys looked pretty solid for the against the Eagles, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more running action from the Cowboys, but hopefully even Dak Prescott can finally score his first touchdown of the year with CeeDee Lamb and company. Bears and Lions. Caleb Williams actually did pretty well this past Monday. I just think the defense definitely fell short. I don't know if they were gassed or something, but that defense gave up a lot of opportunity. And J.J. McCarthy and that Vikings team, and J.J. McCarthy was able to pick up his confidence and be able to move that ball down between the third and fourth quarter, mostly the fourth quarter. But man, I mean, that it still kind of shocked me a little bit that the Bears ended up losing that game. But again, maybe that just shows that J.J. McCarthy was able to do that the whole time. It's just a whole confidence thing, and that doesn't just go for the quarterback. It's more of like also offensive line needed to protect J.J. McCarthy, which McCarthy seemed like he was getting the crap beaten out of him by that Bears defensive line and occasional linebackers too. But Lions also, they didn't exactly look good on defense. Jared Goff looked pretty solid, having over 75% completion. So I think as long as he does that, and their rushing game does a little bit more instead of having their passing game do most of their stuff for them. You get Sonic and Knuckles in there, and they give that Bears defensive line the 1-2 punch while also playing a near perfect play action. The Lions are probably going to give a headache to that Bears defense. You got the Rams versus Titans. No offense, but Titans, Cam Ward, you're honestly progressing pretty damn good. Let's just say that you're doing as well as a lot of quite a few Titans fans want you to, but it's not going to work if the Titans defense can't continuously break down an offense. And no offense, but the Rams offense and defense is just overall better than the Titans right now. Do I see the Titans winning at least 3-4 games? Sure. If Cam Ward can pull 300 passing yards out of his butt every once in a while, yeah, I could see it. But not against the Rams. Even with Matthew Stafford still kind of having his issues, didn't exactly seem to be the problem last weekend, but still, you never know what can happen, and a direct hit towards that back could lead Matthew Stafford back into possibly taking a couple of weeks off. Running game was pretty good as well for the Rams, so I see that not going too well for Tennessee. Patriots and Dolphins, let me get this out of the way. Patriots are winning. If the Dolphins defense does not clean up their shit, and yes, I finally cursed on this YouTube channel, if they don't pick it up, it's probably just going to be the end of the Dolphins. And whether or not Tyreek Hill wants to be traded by like week 3 or 4, it's really just up to the Dolphins to capitalize on that, because I think you'll get some solid value from Tyreek Hill. Even though he is getting up there in age, he is still able to show his speed. He's still able to show that he can be an acquired target for almost any team out there. But Tyreek Hill, just like a lot of players, want to be on Super Bowl contending teams. And that's how he felt the Dolphins were going to be 2.5-3 years ago. But unless the offensive line can get it straightened to where Tua Tagovailoa is not getting beaten up like nearly every other play, and at the same time their defense does not give up 30 plus points a game, then you'll probably see a closer game this week against the Patriots. But I do see Drake May putting out another very good performance passing wise, and I think he even gets 2+ touchdowns, making him a interesting person to may have on your bench as a quarterback for fantasy football. Speaking of fantasy football, you got Brock Purdy, who I don't know if he's injured or not. I would have to go back and look at that. But from what I noticed is that you had George Kittle getting injured with a real bad knee thing that happened in the middle of the game, which very much sucks because you really don't have many people besides Parcells and McCaffrey, unless their tight end number 2 and number 3 come out and get some solid catches. You could probably see that happening. But Brock Purdy is not really going to have that many options the more and more of these guys keep on getting injured. And it does say that George Kittle is going to have to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks maybe. So that's going to be a struggle for the 49ers. But as long as Brock Purdy is staying calm under pressure, that offensive line is keeping him from getting touched, and hopefully McCaffrey can have McCaffrey-like numbers from like 2023. Again, I could see it, but 22 carries, 69 yards. Had a lot of catches though, so maybe he'll get a receiving touchdown when facing the Saints. Bills versus Jets. I think this is going to be a solid game. This is back-to-back home games for the Jets. Once against the Steelers, second time against a division rival that is almost unanimous to win the AFC East. And I think I'm pretty sure the Bills are the only team in the AFC East that actually won their game. So realistically, I'm going to have to go with that Josh Allen offense, man. And now I would want to see some fireworks from the Jets. Okay, the Jets, if they can do what they did against the Steelers, going back and forth like that, it could end up being another 50-50 game like the Jets basically put. But at the same time, if it's anything like how they were against Aaron Rodgers, it's going to take more than just Justin Fields running around like a bat out of hell and trying to throw the football as much as he possibly can. And it's going to take more than just Breece Hall getting over 100 rushing yards. So, Seahawks versus Steelers. Steelers at home. Aaron Rodgers had a near perfect game because, oh my lord. But Seahawks, just saying, they're, in my opinion, like, they have Sam Darnold, who was able to give their number one receiver, Smith Njoku, some solid catches. I think last time I talked about him, I think I said he had like 12 or 13 targets for 9 catches, and 124 receiving yards. I think he gets another 100 receiving yards if the Steelers do not, their defense doesn't absolutely destroy Sam Darnold and keep their rushing game from getting anywhere. In that case, then you'll probably only see Smith getting still between 4 and 6 catches with 70 to 80 yards. They're still okay, but nowhere near the fantasy numbers that a lot of people want him to do. I think it will be a back and forth if the Steelers defense does not get whatever they did against the Jets taken care of, because I didn't expect Justin Fields to be running from one end of the field to the other end of the field like he did. And I'm not saying that they gave up too much, because they did shut down Justin Fields a couple of times, but obviously they're not going to have to deal with anyone mobile unless for some reason they do knock out Sam Darnold for the game, and then you get Jalen Milroe, who is a solid scrambling quarterback and could dice up that defense almost just as easily as Justin Fields, besides maybe the passing game. I think he still needs to work on that a little bit more. Then you got the Browns versus Ravens. Joe Flacco did pretty solid. He did throw 2 interceptions. I think the Ravens defense will capitalize on anything they can. and get old Joe Flacco at least 2, maybe 3 more interceptions. But at the same time, playing against your old team, you may know a thing or two that the Ravens will try to do similarly. And maybe Joe Flacco picks up on that and starts dotting up his wide receivers and his tight end, David Njoku, and see where it goes from there. Now, it's in Baltimore, so I'm not really expecting the Browns to score like 20-plus points. But if they do, then it'll probably be because the Ravens had already scored like 40-plus points. Now, we get to the Broncos and the Colts. This is going to be pretty darn cool. I think this is going to be the battle of the AFC. Truly. This is probably a very hot take because you obviously have the Chargers. And you obviously have the Bengals. You have the Ravens. You have a few other teams. But the Colts and Broncos, truly, maybe they don't look like they have all of the athletic talent, all the strong arm people like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Browns defense, and all these other guys, all these other teams that are predicted to more than likely go to the playoffs. But I see a scheme-fit team, 2 scheme-fit teams, and with Dalen Jones playing the way he did, Bo Nix staying composed and being able to win last week 20-12, I think you're going to have a true back and forth AFC conference game that I think you may or may not see in the playoffs coming up. Well, not coming up. Still got. I don't know why I'm wanting the playoffs to already be here. This is only week 2. But Danny Dimes, 272 passing yards and a passing touchdown. Pretty sick. Jonathan Taylor, who I thought was going to have more rushing yards, but he did kind of make up for it with Danny Dimes being able to throw him the ball a few times, which is very good. A lot of these running backs are getting more than just rushing attempts. They're getting some catches, being able to make plays for their offense to keep pushing, moving forward. Love to see that. And even Pittman Jr. had a solid game with a 80 receiving yards and a touchdown. So now, do I think the Colts can possibly repeat exactly what they did against the Dolphins to the Broncos? No, because the Broncos have a solid defense, unlike the Miami Dolphins. So I think it's going to be way more difficult for Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones to just throw the ball. I think if they can do a better job at giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor, to where Jonathan Taylor isn't exactly having to be there 80% of the time, but he's at least there to be that option. And if Jones could just, give it to his receivers or do a little messing around, try to get some scrimmage yards through rushing, I think it will definitely throw Sean Payton's defense off balance. And that I wouldn't be surprised with, even though that defense kept I don't know why I'm blanking on the team that they played last week, but they kept their opposing team last week down by 12 points. So it's still pretty impressive because it is the NFL. You got a lot of athletes, got a lot of pros out here that at some point either could look like stars, are looking like stars, or in the near, if they get one chance, they could just blast off. But the Broncos, Sean Payton's Broncos, doing what I think that they're doing. But it really just depends on if the Colts defense can play just like how they played. It'll be a low-scoring game. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised you get Bo Nix and Danny Dimes both like slinging the ball like over and over and over again. I wouldn't be surprised if you get both of those guys throwing for at least 30 plus attempts easily. Maybe even together about like 70 plus attempts of passing. So that would be pretty interesting. Panthers versus Cardinals. Bryce Young looked okay. Didn't look ecstatic. He did look like he was trying to win that ball game. Arizona Cardinals, it could be a low-scoring game between these two, but Arizona Cardinals, I think if Kyle Murray can just continue to do his thing with being that dual-threat quarterback like a lot of people know he still can be, then you're going to more than likely want to see the Cardinals win just so that we can be like, okay, well, Panthers are still the Panthers. Let's move on. But no, I think it still can be a close game. I'm not saying it. Not saying that there's no chance. Panthers defense is better than last year, but it takes more than just, I don't know, more than half your salary to kind of rebuild your defense. Now you got the Eagles versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are more than likely to lose against the Eagles this year, especially if Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley can rush like they did. I don't think Jalen Hurts really needs to pass for very much this year if they're going to be able to do what they did against the Cowboys. Now, granted, maybe they'll switch it completely up because of how good the Chiefs' defensive line is and those linebackers can be. As long as everyone's on the same page, you may see a very close game to where the Chiefs may win it by a field goal. But I think it probably won't happen, just because it just seems different now. It's still very early on. Chiefs can definitely win against the Eagles. They have a solid chance, but with really a bunch of nobodies besides Travis Kelce, with a bunch of nobodies on your receiving core, it's going to be hard unless Patrick Mahomes trusts him. It will be hard seeing the Chiefs really being able to dominate anywhere besides maybe a little bit of rushing here and there by Pachenko and Kareem Hunt. Now you got Sunday night's game, Falcons versus Vikings, a solid game. And honestly, the Vikings, they faced a good defense against the Bears. But I do think the Falcons are just slightly better. Now, if the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, keeps that confidence that he had against the Bears, you're more than likely to see something incredible, something that we haven't seen in a very long time with a quarterback who had a spectacular season. Well, was supposed to have his rookie season, then ends up getting injured and is unable to play for the whole season, near whole season. And then on top of that is able to get his team a victory by a spectacular comeback. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think most notably was probably Joe Burrow, which wasn't that long ago, but still. Even after that, who would you really name that of a quarterback that got injured and then proceeded to push his team into being a playoff contender. But anyway, I think Michael Penix Jr. played phenomenally. He needed to win that game, but unfortunately Tampa Bay wanted the win a little bit more, or made less mistakes than the Falcons. Let's just say that, because I think every single one of these players want a win every single week. It's just common knowledge that these guys want a win every single week. But I do think it'll be an amazing game as long as both offenses playing well, and if the Falcons if their defense can play as well as they did against Tampa Bay, I see JJ McCarthy throwing an interception or two just like he did last game, and then hopefully the Falcons could then capitalize on that instead of having to punt it right back to the Vikings just like the Bears did. But anyway, Monday night you got two games, which I am very excited about. Tampa Bay versus Houston Texans, and then at 10 o'clock you got Chargers versus Raiders. I did want to talk about, do I see the Aaron Rodgers Steelers, Kyle Murray and the Cardinals, and JJ McCarthy's Vikings, all three of them going 2-0. I do. I really do. Even though I want Sam Darnold to make it look like he's at least doing his absolute best, trying to get that Seahawks team's offense to really get somewhere other than their freaking rushing other than their rushing offense. I really want them to get somewhere other than being 7-10 or 6-11 because their play calling is crap, or Sam Darnold can't make what other quarterbacks can, and that's a near perfect game. I'm not saying that. That's more of just audiences around the football league are seeming like they're going to think about the Seahawks that way. I do see Aaron Rodgers and Kyle Murray picking up the win. Even though Seahawks defense is phenomenal, I think Aaron Rodgers will end up getting intercepted at least once. Probably only once, but at least once. And that could shift the whole thing against the Steelers. But yeah, I see the Steelers winning and I see the Cardinals winning. JJ McCarthy's Vikings, it's going to be a lot tougher because that rookie quarterback, that second-year quarterback, but really rookie since he didn't exactly play last year, I think he's still got a lot to learn. And with going against the Falcons defense the way that they're looking, it's going to be tough and dangerous for JJ McCarthy to try to do what he did against the Bears. But with the Vikings defense, it can give him more hope than a lot of people are thinking he has. So yes, I do think all three of those guys can. It really just depends on all three of these guys' defense and where that could lead all three of these teams going 2-0 to start the season. And I was also then wanting to talk about with the Houston Texans facing Tampa Bay. What in the world are the Houston Texans going to do? Obviously, besides trying to get back into the win column, what are they going to do when they were favorited? I think they're still favorited right as of right now to win the AFC South Division. But yet, could they start 2-0? The way Baker Mayfield threw 2 interceptions, it's possible that Baker Mayfield's passing decisions end up causing Tampa Bay to lose the game. But do I see Tampa Bay still winning that game just because of what their wide receiver core is looking like, especially with Abuka? I'm sorry for butchering your name, man. I know you're former Ohio State alum, but I can't pronounce your name for whatever reason. I need to hear your name a little bit more. But to be fair, I'm not trying to dig at the guy because literally he is 50% on let's just say this. He's 1 for 2 on touchdowns and catches. So every 2 catches right now, he's got at least one touchdown, which is pretty damn funny. But I do see Houston still trying to make their way into being number 1 in the AFC South. If the Colts win and Houston loses, and then you even have Tennessee losing, and then Jags possibly losing to the Bengals, it's a good start for the Colts, because 2-0 Colts only having to really worry about the Jags this year. If that's what that looks like, then not only do I feel bad for CJ Stroud just a tiny bit, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Because I'm tired of hearing Houston Texans and then they really not being able to do anything because they're seated at 7th and then they get absolutely blown away by a team that is clearly a more favorite team to win the Super Bowl than just winning that game alone. But it could be a toss-up, especially again with the whole Baker Mayfield interception thing. I don't exactly like it, but I do see Baker Mayfield doing his absolute best to get Tampa Bay to 2-0 at the start of the season. And if it's anything like how they were against the Falcons, it'll be a tough game, but the Buccaneers are going to be just fine, and Houston is going to be very much in trouble. And the favorites, prediction on favorites of winning AFC South are going to shift real quickly. Chargers versus Raiders. Raiders Geno Smith put up 362 passing yards and a touchdown. I was not expecting that. I think that is that's the second most passing yards for quarterbacks this past week. So props to him. Now, he may need some more help with Ashton Genty doing his thing, but even both Hampton and Genty didn't exactly have like the best showing. I think Ashton Genty did have a touchdown, but both of them didn't exactly have the best breakout showing against defenses. Now their Chargers and Raiders are facing they're facing each other as division rivals, and their defenses look better than what they did last year. So it's really a toss-up in the air. Now, Brock Bowers is there, but at the same time, I'm also sure that he's another tight end that's injured. It's not exactly going to be the best thing for Geno Smith unless he can get some wide receivers and Ashton Genty can turn up a little bit more. But other than that, I am going to move on for my picks for this week. And I'm just going to try to do this rapidly, but also if you guys want me to, maybe next week I can more or less just give less of a detailed summary on each of the games, but more of a summary on why I think each one of them are going to win, and then just proceed to go from there. I'm just really trying to focus on the narratives that I'm trying to look at a little bit more than some other stuff. But if you guys want me to look at certain other narratives, you can let me know in the comments. Anyway, I have Green Bay versus Commanders. I got Green Bay winning. Yes, it does say right there, it does say that it's 3.5 point favorite. I think it's a closer call than that, though. Truly, I think the Commanders can make it but I think both offenses could end up, total points scored could end up being like between 60 and 70 points. That's what I feel like. Even though both defenses showed that they can really put a hurting on their own division rivals, I just think you will have two, like, Jordan Love, who's in the pocket, throws super well. Wide receivers are playing great. Tight ends playing great. Running backs are playing great. And then you got Washington Commanders, same thing. Wide receivers playing great. The rushing game is doing swell. Even their rookie running back got some solid touches, 82 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. But I think Green Bay squeaks it out by a possession, 3 to 7 points, maybe even just 3 to 5 points. So Green Bay's got my token the win. Obviously, Bengals fan, I am always going to root for the Bengals. I am going to say that they beat the Jaguars today. Well, beat the Jaguars this weekend. And that's really all I got to say. Besides, the Bengals need the offense to step it up. Whether it's the offensive players, whether it's the offensive play calling, it does not matter. Our defense looked way better than what we thought it was going to be because of the way the preseason went, the way last year went. But if we can just contain that run game, like I feel like we can, with all that being said, and we also hold Trevor Lawrence to basically that right there, then I think we end up winning by at most 10 points, the least probably like 1 or 2 points. Cowboys, they'll end up winning against the Giants. There's no surprise there. Cowboys looked good against the Eagles. I think they had the chance to even win against the Eagles, but with the Giants still having Russell Wilson, I don't think they win a single game with Russell Wilson. That's just my opinion. Lions versus Bears. Like I said before, Bears look good. Their offense looked good. Their defense looked good. The defensive line absolutely forcing J.J. McCarthy's hand almost every other play, I think almost every possession besides the fourth quarter. But Jared Goff and the Lions offense, if the defense can pick it up, Jared Goff and that offense could outscore the Bears by like 2 possessions. Rams versus Titans. Rams are going to win that one, hands down. Unless Matthew Stafford decides to throw for multiple interceptions this game, or Matthew Stafford gets injured somehow, I think Rams also win by 2, maybe even 3 possessions. Patriots and Dolphins, I'm thinking Drake May has very same passing yards, but he has 2 passing touchdowns, maybe even an interception as well. But I'm assuming that he's probably going to be a little bit more, probably not conservative with the ball passing, but like I said, he's definitely going to have that same passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and Patriots even get a couple of good rushing touchdowns, and hopefully just absolute dominate the Miami Dolphins at their place. Even though it does say that Miami is favorited 1.5 points. I then have the 49ers also winning. Brock Purdy, he's going to have to deal with the fact that he really only has two well-known receivers, and one of those receivers is his freaking running back. So unless they can use more of their running game, get their RB2 out there, if their tight end number 2 and 3 both step up, I think you're going to have a better looking game for the 49ers than last week. So 49ers could go 2-0. Bills, it's going to be a back and forth, but Bills takes the win by 5 or 7 points. Seahawks versus Steelers. Seahawks have a dominant defense. Steelers, however, have Aaron Rodgers. If he can play like how he did against the Jets with 0 turnovers, even though I do think Aaron Rodgers will end up getting turned over by this Seahawks defense and even getting sacked a couple of times, I think you'll still get that Steelers win at home. Ravens and Browns, because it's at Baltimore, I'm assuming it will end up being the Browns getting the absolute crap kicked out of them, like 40 to maybe 13. Maybe like 45 or 48 to 20 something. But, and then Joe Flacco will probably get intercepted 2, maybe even 3 times. I think the Baltimore Ravens have the highest favorited game throughout this entire week. So I'm assuming that they're going to probably put a huge beating on their division rivals. Colts versus Broncos. I actually have the Colts winning. I think the way that the Broncos offense struggled, and how the Indianapolis Colts back-to-back home games, they did so well and they have all that confidence going into their second home game, you're more than likely to see Broncos ending up losing by two possessions, I think, with Daniel Jones putting up 2 touchdowns, pretty same around 250, 275 passing yards, even Jonathan Taylor getting a touchdown. So I see the Colts ending up winning at home, even though it does say Denver is favorited by 1.5. I have a strong feeling about the Colts. Now, they could have a slugfest, and it ends up going the Broncos' way if the Broncos could end up intercepting Daniel Jones like twice, and then all suddenly the Colts just look like how the Colts were last year. Could be. Cardinals versus Panthers. Cardinals, really very short and sweet. Cardinals, I have them winning against the Panthers, unless Bryce Young throws 3 touchdowns and with 0 interceptions. Cardinals just look like how they did last year at their start. So I can definitely see them, as long as they stay healthy, I can see the Cardinals winning this game and even a few other games. Probably even starting 4-2. this year. Eagles versus Chiefs. I got the Eagles. I don't want the Chiefs winning. No, thank you. Not a chance. But we'll see. Chiefs have a way of still winning games even though they're not equipped to win against teams like this. And the Eagles got better. It generally feels like the Chiefs got worse. Maybe they got better, but I mean, they just look like they got worse. And what doesn't help is that you got the Chiefs defense and offense, well, mostly defense, but you got the Chiefs defense arguing with each other for absolutely no reason. For whatever reason, I'm sure it's probably to do with certain plays being done a certain way, but still, you get over it, you move on, which it seems like they have, but we'll see. I see the Eagles picking up a W. Falcons versus Vikings. I see actually the Falcons winning. The way that they played against Tampa Bay, I do see Falcons picking off J.J. McCarthy. If they can pick off Baker Mayfield, they're going to pick off J.J. McCarthy. They're going to eat his lunch too by sacking him at least 3 or 4 times. Unless the Vikings can look almost near close to what they looked like in that fourth quarter, then that can very much change. But the Falcons defense looking the way they did, and Michael Penix also playing his heart out for most, if not all, that game, whereas J.J. McCarthy had a very much struggle, was on the struggle bus for a good while there. So I got the Falcons winning. Tampa Bay, I see them winning 2-0. See Houston dropping. Yeah, I see Houston dropping to 0-2. Even though Houston's favorited, unless Baker Mayfield just has like 3 to 4 interceptions, I see this dude giving it to Bucky Irving and scoring once with Bucky Irving, but also I'm going to say 3 times. I'm going to say Baker Mayfield scores 3 touchdowns this game, even at Houston's home. It's going to be tough, but I think it'll be back and forth. Then you got Chargers versus Raiders. Yes, the Raiders are at home. Yes, it can be still a very back and forth game defensively, but I do see Chargers ending up picking up the win, and Pete Carroll's Raiders going down 1-1. So anyway, that will be all for today. I know I did say in previous videos that I was going to try and shorten some videos, but the way I've been doing this, and with me trying to show my face a little bit more, excuse me, so you guys can be able to see the face behind the voice, well, in front of the voice, I don't know. I hope it's just a lot better for you guys and for what you guys want to see, but still, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and leave some comments for me if you guys have any questions, or you guys think I should have focused on something more than some of the narratives I wrote down. Just let me know. Anyway, guys, please like, please comment, let me know how you thought of the video, and subscribe if you like to see more of these types of videos. Peace.